And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Austin McCulloch, who writes, "Greetings, John and crew. Just wondering if you saw the new images from the set of Indiana Jones 5. It's mostly a train, which isn't special on its own, but the train is decked out in Nazi markings. How are Nazis in this movie? At his age, shouldn't this film be taking place sometime in the 70s? What are your thoughts?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, the movie that I still think there's a 20% chance never actually gets to theaters. Indiana Jones 5. They're actually filming it now. We got our first look the other day at Harrison Ford on set, decked out in the hat, in the jacket, in the pants, with his skinny little chicken legs there. I mean, as somebody who's been a big doubter of Indiana Jones 5 ever happening, I gotta say, it did make the heart feel kind of good seeing Harrison Ford back in there again. And they are, of course, filming. And we've been getting some behind-the-scenes shots. But this was interesting. There came a shot with a bunch of Nazi symbols, which raises the question, wait a minute, how on earth are Nazis in this? This comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who writes, "It's currently unclear how the Nazis will fit into Ford's final outing as Indy, though a number of other set photos have hinted towards a story that might involve multiple timelines and flashbacks. Should that be the case, it would be a nice treat for fans to get to see the archaeologist punch some Nazis one more time before hanging his hat up. With just over a year left until Indiana Jones 5 arrives in theaters, only time will tell the nature of their appearance in the film." So yes, now look, obviously, when a lot of us think of Indiana Jones, we think of him fighting Nazis until you get along to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which a lot of us just like to forget about and pretend doesn't actually exist. So there's that. But it's true. We come into this one, and all of a sudden we start seeing a bunch of images like these that are on the train in Indiana Jones. So this raises a couple of possibilities. Possibility number one, that this is a flashback scene. Just like in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where they flash back to young Indiana Jones, getting his whip and getting his little chin scar and getting the hat. Maybe this is a flashback to Harrison Ford in his younger days when he was still fighting Nazis for, religious relics or whatever, what have you. And maybe we'll get another actor playing Indiana Jones. Maybe they'll DH Harrison Ford. I don't know. Possibility number two, James Mangold, the director of this film, who also directed Logan and Ford v Ferrari and a number of other great films, is going completely bonkers, guys. He's going completely bonkers. And he's like introducing time warping and whatever. And the Nazis from the 30s are now in the late 1960s, early 1970s. I think that's highly unlikely, but I suppose it's something that's on the board. I probably think the best possibility here is flashback, but I suppose other things are possible. Dennis, when you see these images and you're seeing Nazi symbols and all that kind of stuff, what's the first thought that comes to your head about what it is they might be doing here?
Yeah, I mean, the first thought is obviously flashbacks because that's kind of the easiest, most probable way. Or they, what you're talking about with alternate timelines, going the Man in the High Castle route, and somehow Nazis are still around. The thing is, we already saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which takes place after World War II, and the Soviets were the enemies there, and I don't remember them making mention of the Nazis as some sort of significant threat at that time. So I don't know. And also with the train, also you see the markings on the train. So it's not like a secret type of thing, right? It's not like the Nazis have gone underground and they're, a threat. They're showing their hand. So it's most likely a flashback, but, an alternate timeline thing. The thing I think of, too, is like when you look at all the Indiana Jones films, Raiders and Last Crusade, you're like, oh, the better ones have Indiana Jones fighting Nazis
all the time.
The ones the ones not as good, Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull do not. So it's like, okay, let's just go back to what actually works for Indiana Jones.
Yeah, what was the name of that movie, guys? That kind of B movie that they did where the Nazis have actually been hiding out on the moon for 70 years.
Iron Sky.
Iron Sky. So maybe they're pulling like an Iron Sky thing here where like 1971 Indiana Jones discovers the Nazis have actually been hiding in a cave somewhere, right? I don't know. Rob, you start seeing all this stuff. What do you think they're doing here?
Well, first of all, a couple things. Tomorrow is the actual 40th anniversary of the release of Raiders of the Lost Ark, June 12th.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And yeah. And they released, of course, the 4K versions of all the Indiana Jones movies this week on 4K if you can get them. I heard from when I say a trusted source, I'm not making it up. I heard last night from someone who heard from two people who have read the script and said the script is great. So that's the first thing I've ever heard about the actual screenplay. No title. But they said the script was really good. Or my friend said he heard the script was really good.
Well, don't forget that James Mangold is working with the same screenwriters that he did Ford v Ferrari with. So I'm not surprised to hear that the script is great.
I mean, and Logan, I would imagine this script is rock solid. Now, I think obviously it's a flashback scene, but I would offer this. In Raiders, they talk about how Hitler was nuts on the subject of the occult.
Yeah.
And had people all over the world gathering occult artifacts. I'll bet you, and in the Indiana Jones movies, we've seen the Ark of the Covenant, then we've seen the Sankara stones, then we've seen the Holy Grail, and even we'll call them multi-dimensional, whatever you want to call them, that was in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So there is supernatural powers at work on Earth in the Indiana Jones universe. I bet that whatever's going on in this movie ties all of this together. And there was something that the Nazis did that has maybe to ensure their power would manifest itself later. It was kind of like a fail-safe. There is some kind of tremendous supernatural, mystical, I don't know how they're going to, but it's going to manifest itself now. In the present day. And it's almost like a ticking time bomb that they instigated in the 30s or the 40s, maybe because the fall of Berlin was imminent. And we don't know what that is, but it's something that's going to resonate throughout the decades. And this is going to be the culmination of all of that, what the Nazis started. And maybe Mads Mikkelsen's character is somebody in the present, Indiana's present, whether it's the 70s or the 60s or whatever, to shepherd whatever it is the Nazis planned, whatever supernatural bomb they planted to resurrect the Reich.
But going back to Crystal Skull, what if it's aliens, Rob? What if we find out the Nazis were all aliens all along?
I don't think they're going to go that way because I think knowing Mangold, I think he's going to bring it back down to earth. But the Indiana Jones movies have always said, yes, the supernatural exists. God exists because the Ark, the Sankara stones, the Holy Grail exists. So I think there's something we haven't seen yet, which is what's going on in this movie. And I got to tell you, man, I'm pretty stoked for it. After seeing those pictures of Harrison Ford riding a bike in England, just working out, that guy's as yoked as a 78-year-old man could possibly be.
Yeah, he looks great. He's always kept himself in tremendous, tremendous shape. He's always done a really good job of that.
Man, he's swole.
Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? We got pictures coming out of Nazis in the Indiana Jones 5 movie. What do you think they're angling here? Flashback? Something, a little bit of a change up of history thing? What do you think they're doing? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.